had this guy who wanted me to put like a zap collar on him. And
Yeah.
I just couldn't bear the thought of zapping him. Like I just couldn't, right? He was like, "Oh no, it's just a little electric shock." And it felt so inhumane to me, right? Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Infinite and Abundant podcast. I am Vicki, and I am so thrilled about a very special guest that we have today. We're going to get to know about her very special and abundant gifts. And again, just as a reminder, this podcast is all about how you step into that energy of abundance and how you live abundantly. Why? Because you are infinite and you are abundant. You're infinitely abundant. All right. So, with that, I want to turn it over to you, Velia. And Velia, there's a question that I always ask my guests. And I know you didn't know I was going to ask you this question, but it's going to be a fun surprise. So, as we get to know you, I want to ask you the very first question, which is the question that caused my spiritual awakening. And that was, who are you, Velia?
Oh my gosh.
I'm not starting with the simple questions, am I?
No,
And
no.
as Velia ponders the question, how about I pour myself a warm cup of tea and give her a moment to regroup after this crazy question? And just so you know, so today I'm sipping organic lemon ginger tea. And the reason that I'm doing it is because I'm really feeling the need to just calm down. And the lemon and the lemon peel and the lemongrass, it's so soothing. And of course, you can never go wrong with ginger because it's an anti-inflammatory. And for someone who loves sugar as much as I do, well, I always need something anti-inflammatory. So, all right. So with that, Velia, who are you?
Well, I am a pet psychic and a psychic medium and an emotional energetic specialist. That is who I am as far as my business goes. I'm also a passionate dancer, a wife, a loving cat parent, pet parent as well of two cats. And I am also the daughter of a two parents who struggled through life with stress, and one of them endured paranoid schizophrenia. And I'm very honored to have seen that development and be witness to that. And that has helped a lot in my own healings. And I'm really just a person trying to notice and live out each passion that I have.
Oh my God, I love that. So what you don't know is that we have more in common than you probably realize. Growing up, I had a dream of becoming a dancer.
Oh, nice. So what kind of dancing?
So I studied modern jazz dance for quite a few years as a teenager, and I had this dream that I was going to become a modern jazz dancer, and I was going to end up on Broadway or somewhere phenomenal and
Mhm.
fabulous. But it's interesting, that logical side of my brain immediately kicked in and it was like, oh, well, how are you going to make money doing that? And so it continues to remain a huge passion of mine. I absolutely adore to dance. I will dance Latin, salsa, I'll do hip hop, I'll do you name it. Like if the music is pumping, I'll be the first one on the dance floor. I don't need a drink to dance. I will just dance happily. And so that's one thing I wanted to tell you. I definitely share with you. So I want to actually ask you on that. What's your favorite style of dance? Curious.
So I dance pretty much anything as well. Right now, I don't really do ballet very much. But I dance hip hop, kizomba. I also twerk. I love twerking. I also do a little bit of salsa and um, just even like crip walk or whatever I can shuffling. Yeah, same as you. I used to learn Paula Abdul's choreography from like Cold Hearted Snake, all of that. I taught that myself. So I loved to dance as a kid. And I really thought that there's no way I was going to make any money. And, what do you know? I'm coming across a bunch of people, a bunch of influencers that are making money dancing. And now I'm just like, why am I holding back? So I tried to dance every single day.
But do you record yourself dancing?
Yes.
You
Yes,
do?
I
Wait,
do.
so do you have dancing videos out there?
Not yet. I will. I will be having dancing videos soon. I'm teaching how to dance.
Well, forget everything else you're doing. This is how you're going to go viral, girl. I'm telling you.
I'm excited. I'm not a dance teacher. It's actually a video of yeah, it's actually a learn along with me type of channel.
I love that. I love that. You know, there's this guy I met in town. He's called the Bearded Boomer, and he teaches
That's funny.
he teaches seniors how to dance.
I
And
love that.
so he's constantly showing the choreography that he's going to perform, like is going to teach the seniors.
Mhm.
He blew up on Instagram, on TikTok. He has like 1 million followers. I'm like, what? How are you doing that? So you never know. There just might be another way to blow up in social media. Who knows?
It's true. That's amazing. I love that. I love that story. I've definitely been inspired by the influencers on social media to continue with that passion.
Oh my God. I so respect that. This is awesome. All right. Well, I can tell that this is going to be such a fun conversation. All right. So now that we got the hard stuff out of the way,
That was, yeah, I was taken by surprise. Great question, though. Great question. I really liked exploring that. So thank you.
you know, it's interesting. That was the question that got me during my spiritual awakening.
Ah,
I remember writing out, "Who are you, Vicky?" And I remember not being able to answer that for months,
yeah.
crying. Like, how is it that I don't know who I am? Because, you know, I have kids, I had a career, I have, you know, a husband, and I just felt like I got so lost
Mhm.
in all of those characters that I was playing. And I didn't know who I was behind all of those masks that I wore, you know? And so that question really got me. So yeah. Okay. So I want to ask you, we're going to pivot a little bit. So, as you know, I'm a pet mom. I'm a new pet mom, as in, this is my first dog. And for those of you who've never seen him, let me see if I can find photos of him. But he is like this gorgeous white
Beautiful. Oh my
Samoyed. I mean, look at this. Look at this white furriness. The pudgy one is mine, by the way. Just saying.
So
And
beautiful.
oh, thank you. That's me with him when we went on a walk together, right? So this is a very furry, sweet beast. But what I want to ask you, so up until I met you, I've never heard of a pet psychic. I mean, I've heard of human psychics, but I've never heard of a pet psychic. Can you share a little bit of what is that? And then I'd love to know, you know, how did you even come about? Like, how did that even come about for you?
Pet psychic, pet readings is basically tapping into the energies of other beings, other living beings, and we can do this with ourselves, with our inner energies, as well as anything outside of us, plants, animals, other humans. I basically communicate telepathically with them, and they send messages. This is how they regularly communicate. And this is how mothers and infants communicate. Many of us communicate this way. In fact, I just saw a study where it's possible that autistic people who are not very well in communicating will communicate with each other telepathically. So it's something that it's just one of our other senses that we tend to dismiss and ignore and pretend that we're or tell ourselves that we're making it up. Not pretend, but tell ourselves that we're making it up. And so um, basically, for over 35 years, I've deeply connected with animals and have recently I have uncovered the profound emotional and energetic bonds between humans and their pets. And my journey began in childhood, which was shaped by severe abuse and the challenges of witnessing my father's struggle with paranoid schizophrenia. And in the midst of all that, my mother adopted numerous cats and dogs off the streets. And through them, I saw a reflection of my own vulnerability um, because they too had endured mistreatment, sometimes even in front of me. And I felt a deep empathy for their dependence on humans that mistreat them. Yet I also noticed that they continued to love unconditionally. And at that time, I didn't really fully grasp like the depth of their emotions the way I do now. But I only knew that I could identify with the dependency on other humans who were not as conscious to our needs. So that's how I connected with them. And in graduate school, I was very overwhelmed by my unresolved emotions from my trauma. And on top of that, the stress of coming from the career pressures. And I struggled to be present with my cat Onyx as her as her health declined due to a kidney failure during graduate school. And her passing actually left me with unbearable guilt and grief, as well as the realization that my emotional suffering had kept me from truly seeing her needs when she needed it. And so that painful awakening is what led me to seek training in animal communication and energy healing, not just for a practice, but as a way to survive. It was here where I finally understood just how conscious animals are of their emotions compared to humans. And that understanding not only changed the way I connected with animals, but also became the key to healing my own emotional wounds. And so now, yeah, I connect with pet parents and I guide them to meet their pets' emotional needs through their own spiritual growth.
Wow. That is that is amazing. You know, as you were talking, you talked about this deep sense of guilt and shame. And I think that's so important. And I want to double click on that. And I'll tell you why. Because when you look at the vibrational scale of our vibration, guilt and shame is at the absolute lowest level.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
lower than boredom, it's lower than anger. And when we're in that guilt and shame, we can't allow that light that we have within us, the gifts, the purpose that we have within us
Mm.
to come through. So that's one thing. The other, though, thing is, I think it's so common to have tremendous guilt and shame about the people or the beings that we need to take care of. So, me being a mom of two kids, me being a mom of a dog, I constantly have this guilt that I'm not doing enough, that I'm not giving enough, that I'm not somehow spoiling them enough, that they don't have enough of me. Can you talk a little bit about that? Where that's stemming from, what that's all about? I'd love your perspective on that.
Absolutely. So depending on our backgrounds can determine why we're interpreting certain situations with guilt and with shame. But one thing that I will say is that um, most of the difference between humans and animals when it comes to their emotions, our emotions, is that emotions are just standalone to animals. They're not compounded. They're not convoluted. But humans tend to convolute their emotions. And the reason why is because of thoughts. So, thought emotional energies is what creates that constant feeling of guilt because you're thinking about it. And so these thoughts can be judgments, right? That you should feel guilty and stuff like that. Um, so that's the difference between humans and animals. And then the other thing I want to say about guilt and shame and how it is at the bottom is that I do believe that it is at the bottom because it's a combination of those higher emotions that are just above it, but are still lower vibrating emotions. It's a combination of sadness. It's a
Mhm.
combination of regret, even anger. And that's what judgment is. It's just a combination of really, really dense emotions. And so when we're feeling guilt, we're judging ourselves. We're judging ourselves for not being good enough, not doing the right thing, and really, if we simply heal from that by feeling just one piece of that guilt without the constant thinking, then we can actually release that guilt and then change our daily way of living to where we can meet some of those needs. But we have to release that guilt first because it tenses us up. All those low vibrating emotions, they tense our bodies up, and it makes life harder to deal with in all other areas, not just those areas we feel guilty in. And so, relaxing the body and relaxing into feeling the guilt without having conversations with thoughts and just seeing the guilt just as is what animals do. Whereas humans will think about the guilt, but then also think, well, I should have done this, or this should have happened, or they'll have conversations with thoughts, and animals don't do that.
That's fascinating. And it's amazing the differences and the similarities between humans and animals, right? I have a question for you. So, a lot of times I'm quote unquote disciplining my dog when I'm walking and when I'm walking him. And I almost like downright yell, leave it, don't touch it, right? And then I feel so bad about yelling at him, but then I'm like, no, but I can't have him take it. So sometimes I'm curious, like, does he get mad at me for that? Can he stay mad at me for that? Like, do you have insight into that dynamic?
Yes. So depending on again, it all depends on the situation, and I will say that if I just want to clarify that if the animal's been traumatized at all, they will get wrapped up in the behaviors that we do as well. So it comes from trauma, and we are traumatized, whether it was something big or not. As childhood, we're traumatized from the constant working and the constant doing, which puts stress chemicals in the body. So going back to whether your dog actually, what's your dog's name, by the way?
Ollie, like Oliver?
Ollie, that's right,
Yes.
Ollie. So whether Ollie is actually staying mad at you, the chances are very high that he's not staying mad at you. When you do react that way, though, it does impact him in a different way in terms of depending on how that communication is done. It First of all, it could confuse him because they don't if they haven't they may have been trained to associate the behavior that you're wanting with the words that you're saying. They may have been trained, um, but if you're reacting in a way that conveys any form of stress, then that tells them that you are not the person that they can trust to follow. So
Oh
you're not the pack
my
leader.
God.
So that tells them that they know more. They can because they're more in control of their emotions. So anytime that we get upset, we express any kind of tension, any kind of nervousness or stress, that sends them a signal that you're not calm and collected. So I need to take control.
Oh my God. I had no idea. Here's another question. Why is it that when we're walking and he sees somebody, he'll run up and jump at them, and then other people, he just lets them walk by? I have an assumption. I have a theory. I have a theory that he senses people's fear of him, and those that fear him, he will jump on, and those that he knows are not afraid of him, he'll just let them walk right by him.
Yeah, that's not a bad theory, actually. So if you think about it, so again, it goes back to who's in control. If he, so animals only want to take control if things are chaotic, and chaos occurs within our stress levels. That's chaos. That's not calm and collected. So if someone's fearing them, it's very possible that he may feel he needs to jump in order to control the situation. But although he doesn't realize that it's not controlling it, and that's where training comes in. And how are we training them? Are we being consistent with our training? Are we following through? And while we're training, are we getting, are we expressing stress because the training can be frustrating, or are we having faith in the training?
Wow. Wow. You are clearly deeply knowledgeable and empathetic with that human pet dynamic. So this is amazing. So I know that you have all this wisdom to share with people, and I'm curious about, how are you putting that out into the world? Because not that many people are well versed in this, right? You've got your animal trainers, and I had this guy who wanted me to put like a zap collar on him, and
Yeah.
I just couldn't bear the thought of zapping him. Like I just couldn't, right? He was like, "Oh no, it's just a little electric shock." And it felt so inhumane to me, right? So I'm curious about, share with me, like, how are you putting this out into the world? And how do we start learning about these dynamics? Because everything that you've just taught me has been like super mind opening.
Well, I have a YouTube channel at Unveiling with Velia 139. So that's the main way to get a hold of me. And then my website is unveilinfinitepotential.com. No spaces. And that's basically it right now. I hope to be putting up blogs as well in the future, as well as videos to detail all these different little aspects of how we communicate with animals, especially in training and, the behavior that we want them to have. So, yeah.
But, and you have a phenomenal course coming out, right?
Yes, I do.
Can you share a little bit? That's what I was really curious about. I'm really curious about the course that you're putting together, and how you are looking to bridge that gap between the human and animal consciousness, to help pet parents. Can you share a little bit about that, and just, how that course came about, why you created it, and what people could experience as part of that? And I think it's as much about your own personal growth as a pet parent as it is that transformation that you would see with your pet. So tell me a little bit about that, and how that's all coming about.
So the course really came up um, kind of organically when I began communicating with animals. When I began communicating with animals, I was still going through a lot of trauma. I had not healed my trauma, so I was still trying to understand how to heal my emotions. And so the course started to come up and being developed because I was I was coming across pet parents who were having the same issues as I was. I could tap into their emotional energies, and I could feel that we were all tense, and that's kind of how it started developing. Not to mention, I have a background in a master's degree in psychological research with a focus in neurosciences, and as well as co-authored in 3 studies for automatic processes in addicted populations. And I took that information and just kind of applied to the energies that I was tapping into humans and animals. And I started to realize that the neuropsychology that was going on in the background. And that's how my course developed. I was at a breaking point in 2017 to where I had to do something about um, my trauma because I was going into auditory hallucinations. That's how bad it was. So I was following my dad's path, and so I had to find different tools and combine them, and just kind of create what worked for me. And so what I feel is that the emotional energetics is the course, and I that's what I feel is that we have the ability to detect and manipulate emotional energies. And energetics is just the definition of energetics in physics is the transfer and flow of energies. And so emotional energetics is detecting and directing where our emotions go. And essentially, I teach how to recode the nervous system. A lot of people like to say rewire the brain or the nervous system, but it's really recoding the nervous system to tell the nervous system which chemical emotions I want you to output for which situation. Because right now, most of us are functioning from the subconscious ego, and that automatically pairs our emotions with memories. And when we're in autopilot, when we're completely stressed out, the subconscious ego will drive the body. And when we're consciously living, meaning we can stay present with emotions, uncomfortable emotions, then we actually determine and command which emotions we want to feel for which situation. And so my goal is to teach in emotional energetics. My goal is to teach people how to focus on one thing at a time and slow down the nervous system, slow down the thought processes, and then recode the nervous system into relaxation, and then learn to detect and manipulate unbearable and uncomfortable emotions to where they can feel more bearable to heal.
That is fascinating. And you know what as you're talking, what it's making me realize is that you're really combining science with spirituality, but also with psychology. It's like it's the hybrid of the 3 disciplines.
Yes, yes, it is. It's
And
exactly what I wanted to focus on. I always knew that consciousness was the answer, and
yeah,
so but I didn't know how. But yes, I feel that the spiritual discipline really expresses our psychology, and gives a lot more information than what science has been able to prove due to different limitations.
yeah, I feel like you've got spirituality up here, and then you've got science down here trying to explain
Mhm.
spiritual, like the universe, right? The
Right.
universe, the universal mind, the universal energy, like all of those concepts, right? So that is absolutely fantastic. Now, I want to ask you something. So, if I, for example, as a pet owner, as a pet parent, were to go through your course, what what would I learn and what would I walk away? Like, how would I change and how would my pet change and perhaps even the dynamic between me and my pet? I'm curious.
So, in the course, if we are to work on your own emotional energies, then once you learn how to do that, then we can apply it to different situations such as grief and guilt related to your pets. We can also apply it to situations regarding judgment versus discernment. So I talk to a lot of pet parents who anticipate their pets behaving a certain way, such as, possibly pulling on the leash or jumping on someone. And that right there is a judgment. And so if we can clear those emotions, to meaning what I mean by that is by neutralizing them, neutralize emotions that are attached to memories of what has happened in the past, then we will actually be present rather than acting in a delusional state. Because that's what's really happening is when we're anticipating something that hasn't happened yet, we're facing a delusion. We're not present. We're not in this physical reality. We're not in the same reality as our pets are. And then further, we further expand on that in a third part of the course where we talk about letting go of the letting go of the outcome of certain situations, and that includes training. So, for example, when we train an animal, successful trainers are only successful because they have faith, which are higher vibrating emotions, trust, and confidence. That's where faith falls. And so they have faith in the training process, regardless of how many fails there are. And that's the part where people kind of get stuck, is that we give up because the training becomes so frustrated. But really, training is a trial and error. You have to have errors. That's how the nervous system works. The nervous system cannot learn anything without errors. And it does this error reducing calculation as a form of statistics to get closer and closer to perfect, or to the behavior that it wants. And so when we're training our pets, they do the same thing. They have nervous systems as well. And then we have to control those emotional outputs that we have struggled with in the past, whether it's impatience with ourselves, which will come up in training, judgment, anticipation, again. So all of that. And so once we start neutralizing those emotions and learn how to actually move our emotional chemicals in the body, then our whole world changes outside, because it really is a reflection of how we are inside. So if we don't express impatience with our pet, then they will, and we express patience, they will follow our lead. They will behave better.
This is so fascinating. So I have a story to tell you. I had this guy who is, I'm calling him like the dog whisperer.
Mhm.
So we took Ollie to him for a couple of weeks. And after those 2 weeks, this guy literally has Ollie running around without a leash, listening to him. Like like they go into the woods. He can go with 10 dogs into the woods and control all of them with minimal effort. He just like whistles very gently and they all run to him. I mean, it is absolutely insane how how um how they listen to him. But you said something that was really insightful, and that was the word trust.
Yeah.
And it's fascinating because I don't trust my dog, as in, like, I am so afraid of what he might do that I won't even, between the house and the car, I hold him on a leash to let him into the car.
Mhm. Mhm.
Whereas with that other guy, we could be in the middle of the highway and he's still without a leash and he's not worried about it. And it's because I think there's that trust between him and Ollie
Mhm. Yeah.
that they've developed. And the trainer, he even said to me, he goes, take the leash off and go running around with him in the woods. I said, he'll never come back to me. He said, what if you tried? I'm like, I'm petrified because I'm going to lose my dog. And
Mhm.
so I'm stuck in this perpetual cycle where I don't know how to let go of both the literal and the non-literal leash off my dog because I'm
Mhm.
so afraid that he's never going to come back to me and that I'll lose him.
Yeah.
And yet, with this guy, it's completely different. So I think that it's a really fascinating aspect of that dynamic.
I agree. I would say that there's a lot of you're absolutely right. It's a trust between the both of them that he was able to establish while he was training with him. And I honestly don't necessarily agree with letting him loose and testing it out because there's a chance that he may not come back to you. But I understand what he's saying. I absolutely understand what he's saying. The problem with that is that you have to be have established that trust, and it hasn't been established.
Mhm.
And that trust has to be in very strong foundation before you can do that. Um, and that trust is also has Ollie ran away from you at all before? Have you lost him before? Do you have a memory of that?
Oh my God, yes. In
Okay.
the middle of the street with cars
Mm.
coming.
Yeah. Yeah. See, that's a traumatic memory that you have fear attached to. And that,
Horrific. I mean,
yeah.
Velia, you're 100% spot on. And do you know what? It's to the point where I used to have him on a leash that was
Mhm.
just like a leash with a collar. I'm to the point where I now harness him because I know he can't get out of the harness because before he got out of the leash, and that's how I lost him. And I am so traumatized by that that I literally won't walk him to the car in that leash. I harness him
Yeah.
fully
To the car. Right.
just to even walk him to the car because I'm so horrified
Yeah.
of, and it happened to me a couple of times. I was shaking, I was crying. I mean, it was so traumatic that that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so by this trainer telling you, oh, go ahead and let him out on the leash, on the woods, you don't have his energy.
Yeah.
You have to be in neutral energy in order to do that. But not only that, you also have to be in a controlled environment before you do that. You really need to train. So I would be in an enclosed environment with no distractions, training. But before I would even do that, I would neutralize, I would heal those emotions. I would heal from that trauma first. You would have to heal from it. And then you can be more in neutral energy because that's where the trainer is. That trainer who can take all these dogs with him and they follow him with just a light whistle, it's because they're following his energy. It's neutral, it's calm, it's collected. That means there's no stress hormones being kicked in. There's no anticipation. He's not constantly thinking about what if they run off. He's at peace, and that's why he can establish relationships and trust like that with dogs. So he's already there, and that's where the rest of us need to we're trying to get there by healing.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Like I'm feeling like my mind is being blown because so many light bulbs are now going off and there's so much understanding around all of this. Wow. Wow. I feel like every pet parent, especially dog owner, new pet moms, especially, I feel like need to absolutely go through your course because this is stuff that we don't know. You know, they say you don't go to school to become a parent. Well, you definitely don't go to school to become a pet parent. Let me tell you that much.
That's so true. That's so
There's
true.
no one teaching you this stuff,
That's
you
so true.
know? And
Yeah.
and imagine like, we take on these pets because they look cute, because they're adorable. We don't understand anything about the breed. We don't understand anything about how to take care of them, and then here you are and you've got this like spectacular being who doesn't listen to you. I mean, it's like a whole thing, right? I don't have to tell you. Okay. All right. You got me sold. I think like every pet mom needs to learn from you. How's that?
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that.
This is amazing. And I bet you it really helps also with like the family dynamic, right?
Yes.
Because
Yeah.
it's not just the mom or the dad, it's also the kids and how the kids handle. I mean, it's amazing the way like he will just run around the house and won't even allow us to put on the leash. I mean, we're all chasing him. Like, honestly, he knows
Yeah.
he's the boss. Like, it's horrible. We've made every single, like, classic mistake in bringing up our first baby. So, okay, last
That's
question.
mhm.
No, second to last question. Does he know he's loved and adored? Do pets know that they're loved? Do they feel that?
They absolutely, so depending on the situation, in most cases, most parents that come to me, absolutely. They absolutely know they are loved. They can feel your love. Um, it's and they can feel adored. The one thing that really stands out to me the most is that they are more concerned for you, because most humans are running from one task to another, and they're constantly stressing their bodies out, and they're not slowing down and just simply being like like animals do that are not traumatized. So, for example, and I just want to kind of go into this real quick. When our pets, when we leave the house, our pets have no idea where we're going. They don't understand bills. They don't understand that we need to work. So when we leave in a rushing energy, you are not only stressing yourself out, you do have stress chemicals. You may not be able to detect it because you're so used to it, but not only are you having stress, you're leaving the home with stressful chemicals because energies will stay around wherever we are, if we're there for a long period. So when we come back and we're immediately not greeting them, not acknowledging them, and we're moving from one task to another, that too puts them in a very concerned position for what you're doing because that's not healthy. And they can sense those stress chemicals. They can detect them quicker than you can. They can tell you are on autopilot. They can tell you're not present, you're not conscious. And so they can tell they can't connect with you consciously because you're basically asleep. We're just doing everything in autopilot and we're overloaded with stress chemicals on top of any unhealed emotions that we may have. And so one of the best things that I could advocate for any pet parent who has grief, who has guilt or grief, and they want to reduce it once their pets exit this world. In order to reduce any of that guilt and grief, when it comes to losing our pets, is to spend and commit at least 15 minutes a day, every single day, where 100% of your consciousness goes to the pet. So take away the phones, don't put the TV on, and give them 100% of your attention, 15 minutes a day, doing what they love to do. And that is bringing you into the present moment. That's bringing you into their dimension, which is where they want you to be. They want you to be in the present dimension. Whereas when we're thinking about what needs to happen next, or what we need to do next, or we're thinking about thoughts about the past or the future, we're living a delusional life. We're in delusion, and they want you to be present. And so that's one way to reduce some of that grief and guilt because that's all there is the present moment.
I'm writing this down. This is invaluable. This is invaluable. Um, and so if I'm walking my dog and I'm thinking about something else, they
Mhm.
know that I'm not with them. That
They, yes, yes, absolutely. And it depends on how long you do it. So, for example, I grew up obsessing about thoughts about the past and the future. My dad had paranoid schizophrenia. That's where it stems from, is from anxiety and obsession. So when I used to walk my dogs, I had two Siberian Huskies. I couldn't control their behavior. And not only that, when I was trying to walk them, I was thinking about what I need to do when I get back, or I was thinking about something that stressed me out.
Mhm.
And therefore, there was no reason why they need to listen to me on not pulling the leash. There's no reason why they should trust me to handle the situation if I'm not consciously there with them. I was I was not there. I was subconscious driven. And so I'm not there to handle the reality that's happening in front of us. But when we're walking them, they can tell if we're gone for too long in other dimensions, in the past or the future. They can sense the stress chemicals that are released when we start to think of those things. We're very adapted to those chemicals to where we think we're fine, but they can tell before we can that we're not in neutral energy. We are in stress mode and we don't even realize it.
You tell me then why does my doggy come and sit with me in my office when I'm working?
That's a good question. So there could be different reasons why that would happen. So I would probably have to ask your pet individually.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but just one reason could be that when you're working, it could be that they are trying to help relieve some of that stress by their presence being there if you are stressed out, or if you're working and maybe for whatever reason, maybe someone can reach a state of relaxation because they're so focused and they're working in flow, then they could be attracted to that energy that you're producing during that time. So it could be a variety of reasons.
Yeah, he literally comes and sits right next to me. Nowhere else in the house. He will come and sit right next to me. My
Oh.
chocolate. Oh my God, I adore him.
And oh well, I'll add one more reason
Yeah.
to that. I mean, other than just being kind of close to you, right? They love us. They want to be close to us. Another reason, like when I'm working constantly for 8 hours or 5 hours or 2 hours straight, and I don't take breaks. When we don't take breaks, we are increasing anxiety within us. We're increasing stress chemicals within us. So sometimes they'll come into our visual perspective, into our line of vision to snap us out of constantly doing and just sit and be with them. So that's another reason.
Oh my God. That is insane. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. Wow, you have such a wealth of information, but really insight. These are just such ahas and such insights. This is amazing.
Thank
So tell
you.
me, when is the course launching?
The course is probably going to launch in about it's probably going to launch in about a month or so, maybe 2 months or something. So I'm just kind of finishing it up, and I'll be offering it to pet parents in a group setting, and I just yeah, and so I should be ready in about a month or two.
So spring, summer of
Spring, summer,
2025.
yeah, that's
Okay.
good.
Okay. That's good. That's good.
Yeah.
We like spring. That's when everything starts blooming. And summer is when it's nice and warm and we want to be outside with our pets all the time. This is phenomenal. This is fantastic. So Velia, I know that you had mentioned about, where people can find you, but can you share that again? And I'll make sure to include that in the show notes. But tell us again. So you've got a YouTube channel. What's the YouTube handle?
That is at unveiling with Velia 139. So at unveiling with Velia 139. And then the website is unveilinfinitepotential.com.
Amazing. Amazing. Yes, I think every pet parent, you have such a unique gift, I have to tell you. This is not something that we get to hear about all the time. It's maybe not something that we even know exists,
Mhm.
to be
Yeah.
completely honest, you
Mhm.
know? But I think it's something that every pet owner and pet parent absolutely needs to know and to have an insight into. Wow. Well, this has been such a beautiful and a wonderful conversation. I am so immensely grateful to you. It's incredible. I'm just going to finish it with this. The universe truly is so amazingly abundant. It is so abundant with the healers that we have in this world, with the insights that we can get in this world, with the information that just like flows to us that we don't even realize, and it just, again, it's a beautiful reminder. This conversation is a beautiful reminder that we truly are infinite and we truly are abundant. Just when you can't even imagine this level of insight existing, it does, and it appears, right? And so whoever finds this conversation is absolutely meant to find this conversation. I know that for a fact. And I hope that a lot of people find this conversation because it's been such a beautiful gift. So, any final last words that you want to close out with, Velia?
Um, I think the last words I want to close out with is that I think that a lot of pet parents judge themselves and in making inaccurate decisions or the wrong decision. And forgiveness is a big key to neutralizing our energies, to coming back to a neutral energy. And I think that's the one thing that a lot of pet parents struggle with. And I just want to share that regardless of what decision you make, any decision, it doesn't matter what it is. I don't really have to know your story. Most pet parents are making decisions based on what is right, not what is wrong. And I just hope that if it resonates with anyone, that it's okay to forgive yourself. And if you don't know how to forgive yourself, allow me to show you.
That's beautiful. I love that. And listen, I think that that's true of human dynamic as well as pet dynamic. So, so well said. All right. Well, this was a fascinating conversation. I promised you it would be an amazing conversation, and it was. So we're going to close out on this final thought. Be infinite, be abundant, because you are infinitely abundant. See you in the next episode.